My name is Samuel Delaney, but most people in the industry knew me simply as Sam. I was born on August 18, 1964, in Shreveport, Louisiana, on a street where pecan trees arched over cracked sidewalks and neighbors still knew each other's names. My father was a freight train conductor who smelled of oil and steel. My mother was a church organist whose hands could make even a dying hymn sound alive. Sunday mornings were sacred, not because I understood God, but because it was tradition. A hat for my father, a polished dress for my mother, and my small voice lost in the choir's swell. As a boy, I loved the Christmas pageants and church dramas. The applause wasn't for me, but I liked the way it felt. That flicker stayed with me. At 22, I packed a suitcase, kissed my parents goodbye, and drove to Los Angeles to make it in film and television. I never became a household name. My career lived in the background, a walk-on here, a line there, the kind of work that made you visible without making you known. I saw Hollywood's glamour up close and learned how thin the makeup was that covered its rot. Parties laced with pills. Young actors vanishing into rehab and sometimes into the ground. I told myself it wasn't my world. I didn't use, I didn't sell, but I also didn't speak. By 61, I was semi-retired, living alone in a modest Glendale apartment with my rescue cat, Chester. I spent my evenings watching old westerns, voice-over work filling in the cracks of my income. My faith had faded into habit, a polite nod toward the God I once thought I knew. On the night of February 11, 2025, I went to an industry rap party for a streaming series I'd done a small part in. The venue was a renovated warehouse downtown, loud with music, dim with expensive shadows. At some point a fight broke out, and I stepped away from the noise, wandering into a roped-off back area. The room smelled of metal and cold. Industrial freezers lined the wall, relics from the building's past life. One heavy door hung slightly open. Without thinking, I stepped inside. The door slammed behind me with a finality that made my stomach drop. The latch locked. The cold hit me like a wall of knives. I pounded on the steel, but no sound escaped. My breath came in white bursts. My fingers stiffened, my vision tunneled. Somewhere between the third and fourth shiver, the warehouse faded away. My body fell silent. And then I began to descend a T first. There was nothing. No cold, no heat, no sound. Just the sensation that I was falling without moving. Then a faint glow appeared beneath me, not warm like fire, but electric and sickly, like a dying billboard in an empty city. The light grew until I realized I was standing, not falling, on a street that stretched into a horizon I couldn't reach. The pavement was cracked and glistening as if wet, yet every reflection in it was wrong. They showed faces twisted by craving, eyes locked on something I couldn't see above me. The buildings on either side were towering screens. They flickered with distorted advertisements, each selling something beautiful that became grotesque as I watched. Smiling models dissolving into skeletal forms, parties where laughter warped into sobbing, hands passing small pills that morphed into shackles around the wrists. Between the screens, glass walls pulsed like they were breathing. Behind the glass were people, some I recognized from years in the industry, clutching needles, pipes, or contracts, eyes burning with the kind of hunger no meal could satisfy. They saw me, but their gaze wasn't pleading. It was accusing. A bass beat rolled under the air, steady and deep, like the heartbeat of a giant I couldn't see. It matched the flicker of the screens, and I realized the rhythm was pulling the trapped souls into sync. Their movements, their breathing, even their despair rose and fell with that beat. In the periphery, shadowy figures moved between them. Tall, faceless beings in tattered designer suits stitched with barbed wire, feeding them vials of liquid light that dimmed the moment it touched their lips. As I walked, the street narrowed into a corridor lined with mirrored panels. But the mirrors didn't show me. They showed my life in moments I had chosen not to notice. The friend on set whose hand shook when he held his coffee. The makeup artist who disappeared for a break and came back with vacant eyes. The call from an old castmate I ignored because I didn't want to get involved. Every panel burned my reflection into theirs, binding me to the scenes like I was part of the machinery that fed this place. Somewhere ahead, I heard a sound that cut through the bass, a voice, singing. It was raw, straining against something, desperate to be heard. The melody was familiar, even in its brokenness. I followed it. the corridor opening into a vast amphitheater bathed in that same electric glow. On the stage, chained to a microphone stand, was Justin Bieber. His eyes met mine through the sweat and exhaustion, and I knew without question. He saw me as I truly was. Bieber's voice was cracked but strong enough to carry. Each note wavered like it was fighting through barbed wire. The lyrics weren't his own anymore. They were warped into chants that mocked him, twisting old songs into confessions he never meant to make. The crowd filling the amphitheater wasn't cheering. They were howling. Not like fans, but like predators who had cornered their prey. Chains looped from his microphone stand to shackles at his wrists and ankles. Every time he tried to move away, the chains rattled and tightened, pulling him back into place. His skin shimmered unnaturally under the electric lights, not sweat, but a film like oil, catching every ugly hue the billboards above flashed down. When his song broke off midline, the faceless figures in tattered suits appeared from the wings. They whispered in unison, their words slithering through the sound system. Perform. 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 Each whisper made the chains glow hotter, and Bieber winced as though the metal was burning straight into his bones. He saw me then, really saw me. His eyes locked on mine, and the rest of the amphitheater blurred. "You're not supposed to be here," he said, voice ragged. "I could say the same for you," I managed, though my own voice felt stolen from me. He shook his head, grimacing. "I was warned. More than once. But I thought I could keep one foot in and still belong to him." His gaze flicked upward, as though the ceiling could break open at any moment. "It doesn't work that way here. It never did." I took a step closer to the stage, my boot sticking to the cracked floor like it wanted to keep me. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because they'll send you back," he said, yanking against his restraints just to lean forward. "And you have to tell them. Tell them the truth about this." His voice dropped lower. "About the poison. About what it really is." The lights above shifted, showing not concert footage, but quick-cut images. Prescription bottles, powder-lined on glass, pills in shapes and colors that looked almost playful. Then the camera of my mind pulled back, and I saw neighborhoods, suburban, rural, urban, all with the same thread running through them: addiction. Children in school bathrooms passing pills like candy. Parents nodding off in living rooms while the TV played cartoons. Young bodies zipped into black bags behind convenience stores. "This isn't just music," Bieber said. "It's all of it. Fame was just the stage they used for me. But the epidemic, that's the real show. And the audience is the whole country." The faceless figures closed in again, one gripping his jaw and forcing him to look straight ahead. "Tell them," he shouted over their hiss. "Jesus is watching every soul they take. Every one. And he will hold us accountable, not just the dealers. The silent ones too." My stomach twisted. I thought of the friend whose hand shook, the phone calls I ignored, the quiet acceptance that this was just how it is. I had been silent so many times. Too many. The chains on Bieber sparked, and the sound system erupted with distorted screams. The crowd surged forward, clawing at the stage, but they never touched him, only the air around him, as if they were drawing something out. His voice cracked for the last time. "Don't let them numb you. Don't let them numb them." A low vibration rippled through the floor, and I felt it in my ribs. The faceless suits turned toward me now, the barbed stitches across their torsos twitching like the strings of a puppet. They began to chant, the same word over and over: "Stay." With each repetition, the amphitheater walls bent inward, the electric light dimming to a cold, metallic blue. I backed away, but the mirrors from the earlier corridor reappeared behind me. Only now, each reflection showed a different addict I had crossed paths with in my life. Their faces were hollowed, eyes wide, mouths forming silent pleas. They weren't strangers, they were acquaintances, colleagues, people I'd seen in passing. And in every scene, I was doing nothing. The chant grew louder, the word turning from stay into something else: same. Over and over, until the sound blended with the bass beat. The meaning hit me like a blow: stay the same, and you'll stay here. The floor beneath Bieber's feet split open, a slow, jagged seam, and from it rose a sound so low it made the air itself tremble. He looked at me one last time, his face a mixture of pain and defiance. Go. Take it to them. Tell them I said it. Before I could move, the blue light shattered, replaced by a piercing gold that cut through the electric gloom like a blade. The faceless ones recoiled, shrieking without mouths. And from the center of that light, a voice came, not through the speakers, not through my ears, but directly into the marrow of my bones. Samuel, it said. I knew who it was. And the chains holding Bieber froze mid-glow as if even hell itself had to stop when he spoke. The gold light poured over the stage, swallowing the electric haze and silencing the bass beat. Bieber's chains went slack, the faceless suits scattering like ash caught in a wind. And then he stepped forward, not from a distance, but as if the light itself had taken form. I couldn't see his face in full, only flashes of it, yet the recognition hit deeper than sight. Samuel, Jesus said, my name sounding like it had always belonged to him. You have seen what drugs do to the soul, here and there. This is not only their bondage, it is yours when you refuse to speak. The amphitheater dissolved into visions. I saw children hunched in school bathrooms, teenagers in bedrooms lit by the glow of their phones, parents passed out in recliners while life went on without them. I saw the same shadows I'd met here, the faceless suits, moving between them, pouring poison into their hands while whispering it was harmless, normal, deserved. This epidemic, Jesus said, is not just powder and pill. It is despair sold as escape. It is a lie told until it feels like truth. And too many watch it happen without moving. I dropped my head. I've been one of them. He reached toward me, and the weight of his hand on my shoulder was heavier than the freezer door that had trapped me, but it was the weight of reality, not punishment. Then be silent no more. Warn them. Even if they mock you. Speak of what you saw, and speak my name without shame. The gold light thickened, wrapping around me, and the last thing I heard before it carried me out was his voice. Tell them, Samuel, every drug user is my child, but everyone is burning unless they turn. I woke in the hospital to the sting of warm fluid and the muffled hum of machines. My skin was raw from frostbite, my chest heavy with each breath. Nurses moved around me, but their voices felt far away. What rang loudest was his voice, still echoing in my bones. Be silent no more. I couldn't escape the images. Bieber's chains, the mirrors showing my silence, the children's faces in those visions. Part of me wanted to believe it was all some hypothermic dream, easier to forget. But the weight in my spirit told me it was truth. And with truth came a war. The part of me that feared ridicule against the part that knew staying quiet would damn me all over again. Recovery was slow, but conviction moved faster than my body could. The day I was discharged, I knew the freezer door had opened into more than life. It had opened into my assignment. I started small, telling my story to a few friends from the industry. Some laughed nervously, others shifted in their seats, but a few leaned forward, their eyes sharp with the same fear I had felt. I reached out to local churches and recovery groups, offering to speak for free. I told them about the mirrored corridors, the faces behind the glass, the amphitheater where fame was chains, and the warning Justin Bieber himself had given me. I didn't soften the edges. I let the horror stand as I'd seen it. Soon, I was invited to high schools, community centers, even halfway houses. I walked into rooms that smelled like stale smoke and lost chances, and I spoke the name of Jesus as plainly as I could. I warned them that the drug epidemic was more than chemicals. It was a spiritual net cast wide over America, tightening around anyone too distracted to see it. Every time I shared, I remembered his words, every drug user is my child, but everyone is burning unless they turn. That line cut through all my fears. I wasn't a preacher, a celebrity, or a politician. I was a witness, and that was enough. It has been months since the freezer door slammed shut and the world I thought I knew gave way to the one I can never unsee. My hands still bear faint scars from the frostbite, but they have become reminders, not wounds. Every time I step onto a stage or stand in front of a small circle of listeners, I feel the weight of his hand on my shoulder again, steadying me, pushing me forward. I no longer measure my days by auditions or callbacks, but by moments where I see eyes widen, not at me, but at the truth cutting through the fog. I have stood in gymnasiums where teenagers sat slouched and silent until the word chains left my mouth, and I watched their posture change. I've spoken in dim recovery rooms where men with trembling hands clenched coffee cups as I told them I'd seen both the hook and the escape. Not everyone believes me. Some think I've lost my mind, others that I'm just chasing attention. But I know what I saw, and I know who sent me back. When doubt creeps in, I remember Bieber's voice cracking under the weight of those words, "Jesus is watching every soul they take." I remember the mirrors showing my own silence, and I remember the promise I made when I walked back into this life, to be silent no more. Now, every conversation, every warning, every moment spent with someone who's one bad choice away from ruin feels like a brick laid on a bridge back to hope. I'm not naive. I know not everyone will turn. But the ones who do, the ones who grab hold of the truth before it's too late, make every hard telling worth it. The freezer door that once felt like a prison has become my threshold. On one side, the man who kept his head down and mouth shut. On the other, the witness who walks into any room, from a Hollywood loft to a high school auditorium, with the same message. Hell is real, addiction is killing us, and Jesus is the only one strong enough to break the chains. And until my last breath, I'll keep telling it.